Imagine you rent a car. You picked it out, you love it, you're cruising the streets. But then you see another car. It's newer, it's shinier, and it got leather seats. You want it. So what do you do with this one? You burn it up and push it off a cliff. You go back to the dealership and you say, I'll take that new one with the leather. They say, okay, sure. Just give us back that first one and you're good to go. But you burned it up and pushed it off a cliff. They ask, why'd you do that? And you tell them you didn't want to pay the change fee. But now you're going to jail. Alright, welcome to Tait's Take. If you're new here, I do movie and TV reviews. Give you a little background, basically let you know if I think it's worth checking out or not. If you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for your boy. For my regular Tait's Takers, let's see if Netflix killed it with this one. Nope, that wasn't it. American Murder: The Family Next Door is a new Netflix documentary directed by Jenny Popplewell. She's British. It's a true crime doc that tells the true story of the Watts family in Colorado. This is a story that made national headlines in 2018, so some of you may have already heard of it. What's interesting about this documentary is that it's not one of those typical murder docs with the creepy Unsolved Mysteries voice and the actors doing the dramatization. In this one, it's told using mostly police body cam footage. I guess if it's a white person that gets murdered, the body cams work with no problem. I'm just kidding. Beyond the body cam footage though, there's a whole bunch of social media footage and text conversations that paints the whole picture of this family dynamic. That's pretty much it. Let's get into the story. All right. Plot time. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all the story here. So I guess it's like spoilers, but only in the same way that if I was like reviewing the Titanic and I said the boat sinks. The shit's in the news. Like I said, some of y'all may have heard of it already, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say the things. Alright, so boom. No. This one is serious. Alright. So boom. American Murder: The Family Next Door tells the story of Shanann Watts and her 2 kids and their disappearance and murder. Shanann Watts was once married and divorced. Then somehow she got lupus, and shortly after that, she found Chris. Now for the purpose of this story, I'm disgusted that we have the same name, but onward. She was in a dark place, and just like in the movies, Chris came and swept her off her feet, and they fell in love and all the rest of that normal stuff. As I mentioned before, there's a whole bunch of social media footage because Shanann records like everything. She's literally like video blogging her whole entire life. So you get a good idea of what she was like, what her kids were like, and of course, what her marriage to Chris was like. And honestly, that shit seemed pretty normal at first. Then you get into some of the drama. First and foremost, Shanann had wild beef with Chris's parents. And I know that in-law beef is kind of normal, but this was the first sign that things weren't so peachy. Next, Shanann starts to feel like Chris is acting distant and possibly cheating. When she's away, he doesn't text or call, and when she's there, he doesn't want to get intimate. Yeah, y'all know. Y'all see the signs. Anyway, the point is it's driving Shanann crazy. So now we get to the beginning of the real story. Shanann's coming home from a work trip. Now the flight back to Colorado got delayed, so Shanann didn't get home until 2 a.m. and a coworker who she flew with dropped her off at her house. The Watts family had a camera in the front door. So you see the friend drop Shanann off, you see Shanann walk to the door, and that's the last damn time that her friend sees Shanann. The next day comes and the friend who dropped her off is like texting her like, hey girl, haven't heard from you. Calling her, hey, pick up, call me back. So now she's getting worried. The friend calls the police like, yeah, I dropped my homegirl off last night and I haven't heard from her all day. Been calling her, been texting her, y'all need to pull up because something's not right. So a cop pulls up and the friend's there waiting. The husband pulls up around the same time and now they're inside the house looking for clues and shit. They find Shanann's phone just sitting there. Yeah. Now they're going through the phone. They see all the texts from the friend like, hey girl, where are you, call me back. And then there's text from the husband like, hey baby, come home. Ugh. Anyway, long story long, you're now beginning this investigative journey from the position of the police and also getting flashbacks of all the social media footage that they have. So we have Shanann missing, their 2 little daughters missing. Oh, and by the way, Shanann was also pregnant. That's the gist of it. So what's my take? Yeah, this shit is crazy. Apparently there's a whole audience of true crime lovers. What's up, Cash? I just was never one of them, but I can see the allure because this shit is low-key fascinating. Let me just touch on a few things that stood out to me before I let y'all go. First, people in your neighborhood are ready to snitch at a moment's notice, and they know every damn thing that's going on. As soon as the cop gets to the house, he asks if any of the neighbors have security cameras. Of course they do. He goes next door, and now the first neighbor is showing him what he can see. So remember, Shanann got dropped off at 2 a.m., and normally Chris goes to work at 5 a.m., and from the neighbor's cam, he can see him leaving and coming back from work. So now, at this point, it's the cop, Chris, the husband, and the next door neighbor all watching this footage of about 5 a.m. where you see Chris loading his car up and heading off to work. So the cop tells Chris, let me get this statement from the neighbor. You could just step outside real quick. Soon as the husband steps outside, here go the neighbor. He's acting really weird, man. He's acting real shifty. Plus, it don't take him that long to get ready and leave for work. How you know how long it takes this man to get out of his house to go to work? Yeah, stop watching the camera at 5 a.m. Just watch TV. Don't you have Netflix? The next thing that stood out about this documentary, and this is just a word of advice to any of you out there that's considering doing a murder or other crimes, like just make sure you're really about that crime life. Cause like the police will find you, and swiftly. It's not a game. The best part about this whole documentary is the cop that administers the polygraph test. This woman plays no games. I couldn't even tell her the truth without crying. She hooks Chris up to the machine. You know the one from the movies that like hooks to your fingers? So she sits him down and she's like, okay, are you sure you want to take this test? And he's like, of course. I can't wait to clear my name. Ugh. And she's like, okay, because it'll be pretty dumb of you to sit down with me if you knew who your wife and your daughters were. And he's like, yep, it would be. So she's about to start and she's like, okay.
This is it. Don't get scared now.
No, she's like, right now, only one of us knows what happened. But in 5 minutes, it'll be two of us. What? So he takes the test. She goes outside to do her thing, but put in the computer or whatever. She comes back in like 5 minutes and she's like, you know you failed this, right? So this is serious. So she's just like, just tell us where they are and we can get on with this. Side note, I don't know why they don't just use these polygraph tests for the presidential debates. Those things be ringing off the hook. Anyway, it turns out that Chris found a new girl that he liked and he wanted to be with. But instead of getting a divorce like a normal person, he decided to erase his whole family like they never existed. So yeah, y'all, don't do crimes. If your neighbors don't snitch on you, you'll end up just snitching on yourself. Of course this dude was gonna be suspect number one. Didn't he think of that? On the first day, the cop was like, did you guys get into a fight or an argument or something like that? And he tells the cop, well, we may have had an emotional argument. Huh? What kind of entanglement shit is that? Anyway, besides that dude being an idiot, the craziest part about this whole documentary is that when the news story was released in 2018 and all the social media footage started coming out, there was a shitload of people actually blaming Shanann, saying that she drove him to do this. Huh? Like, what's wrong with you people? There's little kids that are dead. She was pregnant. Ugh. Like, what do we do? What do we think about? Why do we do things like this? I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm going to give American Murder: The Family Next Door 4 stars. I'm sure it's not the wildest true crime story, but it's really a unique way to shoot a documentary like this. There's no big twists and turns in this documentary. It's really just eye-opening content that proves you really don't know what people are capable of. Like, this dude had no record. He didn't abuse her. He just snapped, all because he wanted to be with this new girl. So again, instead of just getting a divorce like a normal person, he decides to murder his wife and kids in the most open and shut case in the history of crime. I just don't get it. Like, how did you think this would go? You could just return the rental car. And I call it a rental car, not a car you own, because you don't own your spouse. She doesn't belong to you. In fact, if anything, she belongs to her kids. She belongs to her family. She belongs to her friends. You took that away from them. You didn't have to. All you had to do was return it if you didn't want it anymore. The documentary gets super sad, especially in the courtroom scenes. You might cry. I'm not saying I cried. I mean, like, my allergies have been acting up, so my eyes have been a little bit more, like more prone to be triggered. The point is, I recommend everybody watch this. It's just a crazy testament to the growing problem of domestic violence in this country. So check it out. It's on Netflix right now. As always, thanks for checking out Tait's Take. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like and that subscribe button. In the comments, let me know if you're into this true crime stuff and if you plan on checking out this documentary. Thanks for the time, y'all. Peace.